got to a point where everything kind of shifted in my life. I had a terrible accident, and I walked into a Buddhist temple, and all these kind of shedding things that needed to happen of the stuff that I built up. I got sober and so on, which we can go into detail in each one of those. But I was sitting at a park. I live in Los Angeles. I was sitting at a park in Los Angeles, and just one day I heard the wind go through the trees, and it all came back to me, and I remembered what had went away. You don't even know it went away. It's you're at a cold for a day, and the next day you're like, oh, the cold's gone. What happened to the cold? You just forget it goes away. And once it washed back over me, like it felt like it had just been waiting for it to be realized again. And all of those emotions came back, and it made me realize that I didn't go to another level. I technically came back to the home version of myself, that safer space. And now I'm at a space where anytime I hear it, I take a pause again, like I did when I was 5 or 6.
Wow. And was the quality of it in any way different now that you were now an adult who had faced some really strong things in your life? Because when you first connected with it, when you were very, very young, you were innocent. You were a young, very young child. You hadn't yet embarked on the path of individuating and socializing and all of those other things and finding your way. So when you reconnected with that and heard it again, was there a difference in that experience from when you were very, very young?
That's a really, really, really great question. Yes, wholeheartedly. In the beginning, when I was younger, you don't know what it means. You have these feelings. You ask adults, and very often adults, especially in this day and age, we're going to give you a practical response. Like, what is this sound? Or what does this mean? And they're like, well, it's just the wind. No big deal. But there's a mystery there without an answer. It was like, it really was baked in so much of the experience of the value of that feeling, because it's like it, as a child, metaphorically speaking, as a child, it was like being given this beautiful house, but it's empty inside. And then I lived a life, and I go back to the house, and now I have a truckload of picture frames, furniture, fireplace, record player, dishes, doilies, whatever you want to name. And I could see the beautiful house for what it already is. And now I can dress it with the things that I've brought with me. That's how it felt.
I love that. Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I never thought of it that way. It's a great question. I never thought of it that. Wow.
Well, it really struck me, and I was thinking, because you were obviously much further along your path when we reconnected with that. And that way you've described the difference there is very sweet, and I think it's great to value the purity of the innocence of the child and the connection with the mystery. And then when we're older and we connect with the mystery, we bring other things with us to that. And something about it's the same and something about it is different. And I think that's very, very valuable to acknowledge. And it just, the way you answered it sort of reminded me of multiple times in my life when I've met a moment of, you might call it ecstasy or peace or equanimity or whatever. And it's the same as it always was, the purity of it. But something about my relationship with it and the way I experience it is evolved from the last time because of the waves I have surfed in between. And it just there's a difference there, isn't there?
Yeah, agreed. We do this every day in our own lives, don't we? You wake up, you open your eyes from the night of sleep, right? And I mean that intellectually, the night of sleep, the lack of, you know, direct consciousness. And you go out into the world and you do 10, 12, 50, 100, 1,000 things. And when you come back home, it's a little different than where it was when you left it because you have new information. And then we also do this in the large sense too. Kid starts off home, they go to university or they go out on travels or they go, and then at some point they get a life together. And if they get to visit the home they grew up in, they get to see it in this fresh face, same place, different perspective. Um, I'm a non-dualist, so a lot of it for me feels like it's just getting connected back to the eternal, the awareness, the consciousness of who I am. I can fold this cosmic origami of my life a million ways, and then eventually I'll smooth it out and I'll recognize it. It's one piece of paper, and I have to come back to that.
Very nice. Well, for those